Hello, everyone. I've got Kate Hayes with us today. She's the Director of Direct Impact at Echoing Green. We're talking about how to prepare people for nonprofit board service. You don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another changemaker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Kate, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Devin. It's great to be here.
I am thrilled to have the Director of Direct Impact on the show. This is going to be great. So I think you have kind of created this program around board training and preparation at Echoing Green. Tell us about where this all came from. Why? What's going on?
There's a lot going on, and that is right. I joined the team about 4 years ago. And the key things, I was brought in to reimagine the way we were working with corporate leaders and engaging them in social impact, which is a really broad task. And so I started listening to our social entrepreneurs, listening to what their biggest challenges were. And the common theme that kept coming up was nonprofit boards. Help me make my board better. Help me not just want to put them to the side because they're not providing too much value. And at the same time, I began looking at the field and saw that the next generation of corporate leaders, those in their mid 30s to mid 40s, were really primed for board service, but didn't know where to go to make the leap and weren't equipped with the tools, the networks, and the confidence to take on those positions. And at the same time as that was happening, we saw that boards were really ineffective. And most of the training programs that existed were classroom-based. You learn about the legal and fiduciary responsibilities, which are, of course, an important part of board service, but aren't really what takes a board to the next level and makes them exceptional. And so we said, what if we took the leadership framework that we've developed over the past 30 years at Echoing Green and brought that to boards and brought that to the way we rethink and reshape how we prepare people to serve on boards. So that was really the genesis, and the way it exists now. It's a very intensive cohort-based experience where these individuals from the private sector go through retreats and workshops and a transformative site visit with an Echoing Green fellow, and ultimately are prepared to join their boards and to really create change at each organization that they're with.
What are the biggest problems you see with boards in terms of their dysfunction or lack of effectiveness?
Where to begin with that one? To get to the basics, I think that the core problem is that there's not a trusting relationship in the majority of cases between a board and an executive director. Executive directors often feel the need to impress their board, to show them all of the great work that they're doing. And that means that they can't actually work together to solve challenges that they face. And if we're able to restructure what that partnership and really create a true partnership, we can begin to have boards operate in a really effective way. And those relationships also are really important to develop on boards. And I think they're often an afterthought. You have a group of people that are coming together 4, 6, however many times a year. It's not that many, but we're not investing in building trust amongst that group. So having difficult conversations, having meaningful conversations, is much more challenging with that as a baseline. So a lot of it comes down to reshaping what a board meeting looks like and rethinking how strategic conversations are held, getting really clear on what they need to be, and also rethinking who's on board. One of the things that is important is we can't talk about good boards without talking about board diversity, which is really lacking. There's a lot of data. And I think that that's another core piece of the puzzle, that we need to make boards more diverse, more inclusive, more equitable, and reflect the communities that they're serving, so that the voices of those that really matter most in the work are showing up with power to make decisions.
Why do you think boards tend to be so white?
That's a great question. I think because most of it's it's traditionally been that way for whatever reason. If you look at the history, that just tended to be the people with power. And as the years and decades have gone on, when we think about board recruitment, it often happens within our own networks, within the networks of the current board members. And we know that networks often tend to look like us. And boards are hesitant, or they say, I don't know where to go to find other board members that do represent the types of diverse candidates that we're looking for. So getting really intentional about the board recruitment process is what will move the needle, and approaching it in a very equitable way, posting a job description far and wide, and creating a process that you can bring in different people, and most importantly, not just one person that's not white, not just two, but a core group that can really show up and change the dynamic in a really positive way for a board.
I've seen some people say that when you start adding women to a board, for instance, you don't get any benefit of diversity until you have 3 women. Why do you think that is? And do you think that also applies to members of minority groups, other minority groups?
I think it does, because I think when you only have 1 and even 2, and it goes for women, it goes for people of color, it goes for young people, it goes for people with disability, whatever it is, it has the risk of tokenizing, and of me as a woman feeling like I need to represent all women. And if I'm in a group of all men, that's going to be a pretty daunting experience. But if I have three of us who can speak from our perspectives about the challenges of women as it relates to the organization, then I'm going to be able to be much more comfortable making decisions, having conversations, and really showing up in that space well.
It also, I suspect, impacts the behavior of those middle-aged white guys that are still on the board, doesn't it?
It does. And there can be a lot of discomfort for them from what I've seen. And change is hard for anybody. And for many, giving up power or sharing power in a different way is a challenge. And by really investing in those relationships, if you don't have trust amongst the group, it's going to be an impossible challenge to create that culture change on the board. But when you do, and when you can create systems that show the value of each person on the board, regardless of their background, what they look like, where they're coming from, but to show the value that each person's adding to the board, then it becomes a little bit more comfortable. And as that shift happens and people say, wow, we're having better conversations, we're debating in a really healthy way, the case makes itself. But it's a challenge.
Yeah. What drew you to this problem? My academic background is in neuroscience, and I've always been interested in human behavior and why people do the things they do, how they can show up as their best selves. So my initial interest really came from the leadership lens and thinking about where is the most impactful way for me to bring this expertise. And as I started working in the nonprofit sector, much of it was inspired by Echoing Green to do so, I began seeing mostly bad boards. And I said, there's so much possibility here. Why is this such a frustrating experience? What's missing? And it became immediately clear, one board after another, that what was missing was that leadership development and that ability to help people understand themselves and how they show up, but also help the group understand how they show up together to really make an impact. And then all in the spirit of something that I care deeply about, which is social entrepreneurship and the power that that has to change the world. You've had a remarkable career already, young as you are. What's the most important lesson you've learned?
The most important lesson that I've learned, especially through this program and through Echoing Green, is that having intentionality around creating ripple effects is really important in this work. I've always thought about, it's great when we have ripple effects from social impact. And when you work at Echoing Green with Direct Impact and only have so many people going through this transformative experience, it's really important to get intentional about helping each member of the group understand how they're going to bring what they've learned, what they've experienced, how they've transformed to other facets of their lives, to their families, to work, to the work that they're doing in the private sector, as well as to the organizations that they're working with. So getting intentional about creating those allows the work to go so much further than the 50 people that we're able to work with each year.
Well, it is a joy just to hear you talk through all these issues. I really appreciate it. Kate, what is your superpower?
My superpower is asking powerful questions. And a lot of people say that, but my,
no, they don't.
No? Okay, great.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So as a facilitator and as a coach, I joke and the people I work with joke because they say, Kate, you never answer my questions. And of course, if people ask very technical questions, I am there to answer and there to help provide guidance and support. But I truly, truly believe that everybody has the answers that they need within them. And it's about how I can ask the right questions at the right moment to facilitate that conversation between somebody and their own inner wisdom so that they find the answer that actually works best for them. So asking really powerful questions is my superpower.
Really powerful superpower. Kate, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I know you're busy. Will you just take 1 minute before you go and tell us how people can learn more about your work at Echoing Green and how they can connect with you personally?
Yes. So you can come to echoinggreen.org and direct yourself to Direct Impact. You can reach out to me, Kate at echoinggreen.org. I'm always looking to have more conversations in this space and share ideas and practices. Twitter, Echoing Green, or I'm at KDA Hayes, LinkedIn, Kate Hayes. You can find me in any of those places, and I'd love to continue the conversation.
Fantastic. Well, Kate, thank you very much for joining us, and we wish you every success in your work in trying to improve nonprofit boards.
Thank you for having me, Devin.
All righty, let's do some good.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another changemaker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.